right, Dr. Emer, you're live.
Hey guys, it's Dr. in West Hollywood. We're doing part 2 of our InstaLift. First part was marking and numbing. That's always the worst part. Second part is the easier part where we actually put in the thread. You can see I put in my first thread right here in the midface, so it's back and forth. I get a nice lift. You can see the cone is holding this in place and it's anchoring right there, and we're going to lock that in a second. We're now doing our second entrance site. We're going to mark that right there, perfect. And then we're going to go in with the thread. Now these are bi-directional threads, and the reason I like those is it gives me a lot of variability. She's going to feel a little pinch here or there, but she's super strong. We've already numbed with injection. It gives me a lot of variability in actually creating a vector. So I can, if one side of the face is different than the other, we can really customize what we do. Perfect. And so we're putting that right into that vector. Watch your camera. Perfect. And putting that in one direction. So the first direction is there, and you can see our cones are now inside under here, but also on top. We're now going to loop those cones directly into my lower vector. Okay. And the thing about this, especially when you have thicker skin, you want to be really cautious about the exact direction and how deep you go. It's super important so that they don't see the threads. And also that we get a really nice loop. So you see that loop has been formed. It's going to slide right in there. Perfect. We now have that under the skin and a nice vector has been created. Last one on this side to get a nice lift through the nasolabial folds, and also just kind of give her cheek some contour and give her a little lift, especially when she wears her makeup and stuff. She wants to be able to really highlight the shadow of her cheek. So we're going to go to the top of the fold and really high on the cheek there. Watch again. Great. Let's get those cones in there. We'll go a little bit high. This one you might feel a little bit, I'm sorry, little pinches here, because we're going right along the bone and high into the hairline. But in general, it's a really quick, not too painful, not long-term painful procedure either. Perfect, great. And now all the threads have been placed. And I always do make sure that this is exactly the angle that we want. And we'll lock those in place in a second. But you can see now here, we pull those, I've got all movement here in the middle face, and I can get a nice lift on her face. All right, we're gonna go now to the opposite side. So go ahead and lift your head up for me. Good, turn all the way left now. Perfect, so we're gonna watch that side. We'll throw a couple more. Now if we're on this side, same scenario. We're gonna do our little entrance side here. Good. And we go right under there, the appropriate depth, right into that fold. Go ahead and dab there for me. Good. Now, some areas, some people bleed a little bit more than others. There's a little vein right here. I'll move over by you guys. Hold on 1 second. Scooch to the right. It looks much worse than it is. Perfect. Give you that needle. So this area here, she has a lot more movement, so there's a little bit more of a pucker. Grab that out there. Perfect. Now we're going to do another. Pressure is the most important thing. What were you saying?
What is the downtime for this procedure?
There's really not much downtime. I just tell people 72 hours out of the gym. If you can dab right here for me, please. Good. Grab a Q-tip. It's okay. There's really not a lot of downtime. I just tell people you don't want to do a ton of activity for the first 72 hours if possible. Okay. And not, you don't want to manipulate these that much. Okay. Hold on 1 sec. So always one side, you guys. It's a little bit harder or worse than the other. Again, you want to make sure it's the perfect loop. And sometimes on one side, you'll have a little bit more divoting than the other because that skin has more looseness. So this side, she's got a little more looseness than the other.
Can you tell us what this is again, please?
Yeah, this is called InstaLift. This is facial threading to get tightening in her skin. Okay, last one. Go ahead and get here. Okay, go ahead and grab that. Hold on. Okay. So we're going to go right under there, and these threads have little cones on them that will anchor to the tissue and give us a nice lift. Also, over time, these are made of a specific type of sugar that dissolve into the skin and build collagen. That's our goal. It's long-term tightening and collagen building. Okay, I'll go a little high, right up into the hairline. So we get a nice lift. Perfect. Good. So now we have those internally. Let's wipe your little alcohol. So get nice and clean. You can for me first. And then I'll show you guys the tightening process. Okay. I'm just gonna clean her off. Over here, you gotta take another one for you. Just gonna clean her off, get it nice, clean the field as we. And now the threads are in there, so we're massaging. And what that does is now allows me the ability to activate the cones. So this she'll feel just a little bit as I'm pulling, pull, and you can see the cones grabbing onto the skin. Perfect. And that's gonna anchor it into place. Great. Now, that's gonna make her have like a little dimple for a short time period. Some people do this without the dimples. I find you don't get nearly as much tightening. So if you can deal with the dimples for a short time period, maybe a few days to a few weeks, the results will be better. You'll get a lot more tightening. Go ahead and turn the opposite way. Same thing, we're gonna activate those cones. She's got a nice strong tissue, so you can see if they're grabbing on, right on there. So you bi-directional, one direction then the other, getting a nice tightening effect. You can see it pulling everything up. Some people claim, some doctors claim this doesn't work and then it rips the tissue, but it's not true. Look, you see it's not ripping the tissue, it's lifting the tissue. You can see it's visible right here. Okay. So I always like just to smoothen it out. We don't want any issues. Smoothen it out. Beautiful. Great. Okay, so now we're just going to get rid of those whiskers. So I said, let's get rid of this, cut the whiskers. So it doesn't tickle your nose anymore, you know. And then these would dissolve over the course of 1 to 2 years, building collagen in there. There's that piece of the thread that's gone. Go ahead and turn the opposite way. I always have my medical assistant double check me because these are clear threads. I wanted black threads. I thought it'd be cooler, also easier to see. But I guess blue would probably be the best, actually, or green, because no one typically has that hair color, usually. Nowadays, you never know. Okay, so we have those, again, same thing. We're going to smoothen everything out. This direction, that direction, they're all in there. Perfect. So now we have a degree of tightening. You can see right through here. There's anchoring. It's going to look great. We're going to put her under red light right now. We can, and then we'll take a look at her in a second. But we can raise her up. I think she looks great. So that is InstaLift procedure, guys. Instant lifting and long-term tightening of the cheek.